This conference will now be recorded.
So this is TET01's 2019 facility plan meeting with the State Construction Department. We'll introduce ourselves first. My name is Troy Decker. I'm in planning. My role in this process is make sure we abide by all state statutes and rules and regs for the commission. Make sure we update our database and have the best available data possible in order to get accurate reports to the select committee and to the commission. And then I'm also part of the budgetary team that helps put together budgets for consideration by the commission.
Hey guys, I'm Raj Dami. I'm the accounting analyst, and I basically provide these guys with a variety of information from the AIM database.
Good morning, I'm Paul Severson. I'm the design and construction administrator, and my job is basically to work with the project managers, provide some leadership, coordination, calibration so that we provide as consistent services as possible to all 48 districts in the state.
My name's Amber Leach with State Construction, and I'm the policy coordinator. And my role during this process is to work with the facility plan and all the documentation with the district for today's meeting.
Lance Johnson, School Facilities Project Manager. I work directly with the district.
Jeff Doherty, I'm the Assistant Superintendent. I'm in charge of all the operational aspects of Teton County School District.
Laura Davenport, Teton County School District. I'm representing the Finance Department.
Paul Rosslow, Teton County School District. I'm the Facilities Director.
Okay, so Gillian.
That's it, Troy.
Oh, no problem. Gillian for sure is not there. Jason's not there, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
And then Kristen is not. Is that correct?
No, she's working on another project, so I excused her.
No problem. Okay, good. Well, thanks for joining us today and this morning. It's a beautiful, beautiful day in Wyoming. With that, I'm going to go ahead and turn off our cameras simply because we have streaming issues at times. So we just wanted to have it on for introductions. And so we'll kind of start going through this. I do want to introduce or just say for Amber, this is her second day in a new position. Charlie Kaufman has been looking for a business manager position for a school district for a year or two here. And we're so proud of him. He ended up going to Wheatland. And being their business or business manager. I think that was like 3 weeks ago now. So that's kind of exciting for us to see him advance his career. And so Amber vied for that position, and she now has his position, and now she has two positions. She's doing hers and his because we haven't replaced hers yet. So that'll be a challenge for her for quite a while here. And then Raj again is doing our data and does a great job, and we've got all hands on deck. So with that then, just a couple things about facility planning. Number one is that these documents are obviously are public, and one of the things that we do get requests though is from the governor's office periodically and from individual legislators, and they may ask for a school district facility plan. So we've tried to really make these visual. We try to make them so that they are representative holistically of the school district as a whole, and that anybody can pick up this document and, within 10 minutes, have a reasonable understanding of the overall facilities needs and challenges and requests by a district. So that's one thing I want to communicate. The other thing is as of last year and this year also, we started using the county GIS sites and just trying to verify acreages and stuff like that. So we've really tried to validate things more accurately as we go, and we're getting better at what we do. And then the third thing I want to acknowledge too is the fact that Amber works really hard with the school districts to get these filled out in advance. Once they're filled out and satisfactory to the district and her, they're advanced to me. I do prepare responses in advance to our meeting right now. And then as I type, you guys have a note section, and we really like that because you have voice. You can say whatever you need to and ask for whatever you need to and express concerns or thoughts or ideas or whatever you want to say there. And then we have the opportunity to respond to those individually as well. So as I type, please make suggestions, anybody, school district and staff. I'm not offended by that at all, and we want the wording to be reflective of what's been discussed and accurate. So with that then, the first part of this is more housekeeping than anything, and that's why we do that on the front end with Amber. So we'll kind of cruise through here at a fairly fast pace. District, please feel free to slow me down at any point. When we get to the parts where all of us need to discuss more thoroughly, we're going to certainly slow down, but with this first part, I don't want to waste time because that's why we have pre and final meetings before the real meeting. So with that, district, you have reviewed acreages and you verify accuracy. This does have an impact on your groundskeeper allowance payment through the block grant through WDE. So thank you for doing that. Land leasing.
Hang on just a sec.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that we have the village parcel on there. I didn't see it. Nope.
The village parcel will probably as Janet got with me late yesterday, she's working towards it. In the notes, it should reflect that we do note that that is in process and we will have that in there.
Yeah.
I also made a note to explain that that is from your development section, that property was obtained. And I just also noted that in the near future, if you do change that parcel is in a land swap to another area, that you communicate with doing an AIM update form so that we can have that reflected in the database.
Absolutely.
And then just to remind you, state statute did change, and I could have put that in here, but I think we'll just do a verbal. State statute did change in the fact that in the past, disposition of properties, the school district had complete and total authority over that. And the commission, it would be reported to the commission. It could be in advance or on the back end of it. And then the commission would disapprove of it if only had the authority to only disapprove of it, not to approve of it, but disapprove of it, if it wasn't in the best financial interest of the state and the community in their opinion. But state statute last year did change, and with that change, they are now responsible for approving it. So when you get ready to do a land swap, if you decide to do that, you will want to be proactive and come to the commission in advance of that land swap, present to them your plans, and then have them consider approval of that according to the updated state statute. Any question on that?
Not that will be settled here, but go ahead.
Okay.
No, I get why they would do that if the state bought the land, but if they didn't invest anything in it, it should really be a district. But that's an opinion that is for the legislature and not for you guys.
Yeah, that'd come after a denial.
That'd come after a denial. I'm preemptively griping.
Fair enough. Troy, I do want to talk when we get down to property, the buildings though, that Chef and I were talking about this yesterday too, that there may be a chance they might be disposing of some portable buildings. And I want to make sure we go through the process of that when we get to that appropriate point in this presentation.
Okay. Okay, so that sounds good. We're also supposed to cover leases. Make sure I didn't, I went, yeah, I'm good. So leases also, we are by state statute as a department supposed to track leases in school districts. And of course you guys work with us and what kind of leases, stuff like that. But at any rate, we appreciate you looking at those and verifying those, because those can have an impact as your ADM is nears your allowable and your gross square footage. these leases, if they're for an approved educational program, you can include within your own buildings, you can include that lease square footage in the major maintenance calculation. So thanks for sharing that with us, and we do capture that in the database. So other than that, guys, I think we're pretty good on that portion. All right, so property profiles. You guys have verified these and verified their accuracy. The square footage impacts, allowable square footage impacts your major maintenance payments. And you guys know this, I'm sure. This data is very important because WDE relies on it to figure your block grant payments with regard to operations and maintenance payments based on allowable square footage. And even we send over, and Raj is working on it right now, it goes in April, but even every space, every teaching station is reported to them, and other things that you've been working on?
Actual square footage, gross square footage, stuff like that.
Okay, cool. I know addresses are important to them, whether or not a site, an acreage has a building on it or not, because that impacts your groundskeepers as well. So anyway, so we take this real important and work hard with you to make sure it's accurate. And then you probably know that they send us ADM at the end of each year or months later after they scrub it. And then they also send us enrollments, which impacts as your enrollment projections.
I see a discrepancy there.
What do you see? Hang on, Troy.
Or do we have marker? Do they have a note that we've got all of them?
Troy, this is Paul.
Hey, Paul.
Hey, I see a small discrepancy that we missed on this, that I missed. On the Davy Jackson modular number 3.
Okay.
That the gross square footage that is listed at 1,200 square feet. It should be 1,680. All 4 of those are the exact same. They're 24 by 70 units. Modular 2, 3, 4.
Okay. So let's go to Davy Jackson real quick. I assume you guys have had those a long time, so it doesn't matter. 1, 2, 3, 4, they're all identical, so that should be changed. Thanks for catching that.
Yep.
Troy, this, if an opportunity arises, Jeff, and I don't know, we just kind of touched on this yesterday a little bit. If for whatever reason they find the need or the opportunity to get rid of some of those, it's essentially just doing a building disposition form, sending it through, doing the board meeting minutes, the advertisement, that type of thing.
Lance is looking at me because I'm very skilled in this area now. Having sent him one 3 times last week.
Yeah, disposition of buildings also needs to go and be approved through the commission.
Right.
So yeah, just guys, communication is always key. And so yeah, just as you think through that school district, you decide, hey, this is what we want to do. And you can do it 2 ways. You can kind of talk it over with the board, go through the commission, get approval, and the board makes a final decision, or the board can make a final decision, go through the commission. To be honest with you, I haven't seen one yet that hasn't been approved, but I'm not saying it's not possible. Because just, they're supposed to be responsible for protecting the best interests of the state. So, but at any rate, yeah, just same process as the land.
And that may or may not even happen. So.
Okay, good. Thanks for pointing that out, though. I cannot imagine them. I'm going to back off on this, guys, just a little here. I'm going to uncheck this one. And then it was Davy Jackson Elementary School Modular 3, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm going to come down just a little here. We're just a little bit too much. No, I'm not going to say this. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, you got an acknowledgement. You are getting rid of that one, or you did obtain a metal building, correct? So
it's in the works, Troy. don't think you've actually got it yet.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Your baseball building.
Oh, they just told us last night that will delay till July.
Okay.
Okay. And so I guess what we're really calling that then is that's going to be an enhancement. Is that correct, Lance? Is that how you interpret
Right.
that? Okay.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to make that a little clearer. I'll just say after an enhancement, acknowledgement, if I can, is acknowledged. And then let's put here that, hope I'm spelling that right. I'll capitalize it.
Troy, this is Laura. While you're typing that, we sent update forms for all of our modulars. Amber, are those in the works? Because number 3 was in that AIM update status report that we sent Janet.
Again, that was in that group that she got from you guys, and she's working through those. And I believe I still noted that. Well, I apologize. I did not note it on that one. I noted on the land, but it is in that work that she was working on.
Okay, you'll see that square footage request change for module 3 on one of those AIM updated sheets that we did forward to her.
Amber, once Janet does that, she sends an email acknowledgement to the district, correct?
Yes, and she always tries to include me if it goes directly to her. Due to the timing with this actual facility plan, she was unable to get to that point. So that's why we noted it in the facility plan so we could go forward, at least capture that we were in the process. But yes, once she does have that completed, she will go forward with it.
Okay, so we're going to get rid of this portion because it's not accurate.
Are you getting rid of any over at the middle school?
Any what? Modulars?
Yeah. Not at the middle school, but at the color.
Okay. All right, guys, that looks good. Any other comments on the property profiles? I think we got, and thank you so much for getting the AIM update forms over. The only one that will not be done, of course, you got to obtain the shed or whatever that for baseball. You'll have to obtain that first, obviously, and it has to then run through the commission is fine as long as they acknowledge that, and then we can once it's approved by the commission, we can acknowledgement, and then the AIM database can be updated, and that can happen straight through. But you also said on that one, you also have done an AIM update form and submitted to Jen for that as well. School district, did you hear me?
Yeah, the audio is not that good, Troy, if you don't mind repeating that.
No problem. On the shed that you guys are going to get for baseball or whatever it is, you guys haven't received it yet, but it looks like your enhancement acknowledgement form is going to go forward in, is it going to be this month or is it going to be in May?
It'll be in May because we just sent it in
Last Thursday or something.
Yeah.
I got you.
Sent to show it.
Perfect. And I just wanted to ask the district, you've already sent an AIM acknowledgement or a AIM update form as well on that one, or are you going to wait until it's acknowledged or simultaneously when you want to be put on the agenda? How's that going to happen?
They haven't done the they've done the enhancement acknowledgement, but they haven't done the AIM update yet. We'll wait until after probably the approval of that, and then.
Perfect. And then we'll update the AIM database. That sounds fine.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, appropriations. We always review these on a regular basis. Lance, you want to, I mean, to me, they're all going to stay open and revisit next year. Is that accurate?
Let's see. So yeah, all three of those are still live. We're going to be closing out Munger Mountain 11 month, probably in July. Transportation parking lot, we just had a big powwow on that yesterday with the contractor and the engineer. We're getting that wrapped up. We'll be doing probably 11 month at the end of the summer on that one. And then obviously the Mercer is going to be presented tomorrow at the commission meeting.
Okay, fine. We'll just wait till next year to revisit that and return those monies back to the state.
And also, just so you know, Troy, we also had a bid opening yesterday for the YDOT building sewer, which is tied into the Munger Mountain project. So we're using funds from the Munger Mountain project to build that sewer line into the YDOT building. And we'll be moving forward with the bid. We had one bidder yesterday. It's within the engineer's estimate, within 10% or so, and we're good with the cost, and I'll be working to get that thing contracted.
Okay. And construction season this year in Jackson should be what, June 30th to about July 30th, 31st?
Yeah. Theoretically. No, we should be able to go through August for sure.
Well, and the contractors were confident that under this 20 feet of snow they have, the ground's not frozen. So
Well,
it's just well insulated.
Okay, like a little insulating blanket.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Okay, with that then, Lance, security.
Okay. Yep. So you guys are aware of the 10% security money that you got for the last couple of years.
Yep.
Well, you get another 10% for this year, which is good, but we got to make sure we keep track of that and your balance on that, because in the future that may not be available anymore, and we don't want to go in the hole before we do that. So when you put in a work order for using your 10%, then I'll be checking that, cross-checking that with your balance to make sure that we don't have, we would go in the red, because then we got to get JJ involved and do some stuff. But anyway, you're also familiar with the process of your security elements on how to spend the money with that and moving money from one element to another, and acknowledging that that money will not be back funded for those elements. But now with the new $4.9 million that's been approved in legislation this year, and Paul will update you on this a little bit here in a second, but you may or may not, you may be able to spend that money a little more freely on the 20 elements that Troy just showed up there that were not in the green. Paul, you want to highlight that for us? Tell us what may be in the works for that.
Yeah, originally our request that we had promoted through the commission was to open it up to all deficiencies in the top 20, that list that's up on the screen right now. So if you had a deficiency, we were going to allow you to expend funds. Well, when it was drafted by the legislature, it went right back to the same 8 that are colored green on this list. Well, our director approached the governor and asked if he could line item veto the requirement that it go back to these 8 items again. And the governor has done that. So what was left was basically that the commission will make a determination on how to distribute the funds. So before it was specifically on the 20, they moved it to 8, and now it's wide open because the commission is going to have to make a decision on how they want to distribute and how they want to allow districts to be able to expend those funds. So we are expecting in May, this week when we meet with the commission, we'll probably have some general discussions about what they're thinking, and in May we will probably be presenting something based on what the input we received from them this week. So we don't know how the 4.9 is going to be distributed yet. That will be up to the commission. But the expectation would be that whatever they decide to do with the new 4.9, any remaining dollars from the original $9 million, including the contingency, will also be distributed in that same manner. So the belief is that there's going to be greater flexibility, but that's kind of speaking into a hat at this point, because we will just have to negotiate with the commission to understand what it is that they think is important. And so we'll report back after that. We would also always encourage, if you've got the opportunity, to sit at the commission meeting to offer your input in regard to what you think would be the most reasonable thing with that, because they do actually value what districts have to think about distribution of funds like this. So again, if you're going to be at the commission meeting, I would suggest trying to grab a commissioner or two and let them know what your thoughts are on what you'd like to see done with those dollars.
Yeah, that would help out with, you know, your requests that you've had in the past, that, you know, for cameras and other things. And also, I know that you guys are very aware of what we do for security conferences, because Paul won a backpack one time, an emergency management backpack.
Whoa.
And Jeff's been to those, and
Crap.
and we're gonna, yeah, and we're also going to be having additional safety and security conferences in the future too. So we'll just let you know about that. And also, just so you're aware that there's extra additional grant money out there from Homeland Security and Department of Justice that you might be able to check into as well for security. And Paul, he's got some insight on another safety conference that may be happening in Laramie this year too. So if you want to mention that, Paul.
Yeah, unfortunately, we aren't extremely pleased with the fact that they're looking at September 30th as a potential date that we could have another half-day conference. We would be pairing it up with the Superintendent of Schools S5S conference that she has been having since she became superintendent, and she is intending on having that October 1st and 2nd, which I'm guessing that participation may be a little low because of the confluence with hunting season. But, so September 30th is what we're looking at.
Down by the second.
It would be a half day at Gateway Center in Laramie at the University of Wyoming is technically what we're looking at. We haven't solidified plans. We'll be working with WDE in upcoming weeks to set that up. But that's preliminarily where we're looking at. This year, unlike the past where we have brought in experts to basically offer insights to the participants, we're going to turn our focus internal to some things that districts are doing that we have seen here in the division that we want to highlight and have districts present to other districts what they're doing, how they're being successful with some of their security initiatives. So this one's going to be a little more homegrown, where we talk internally here in the state about what we're doing and what we're doing well. And don't be fooled, we are doing very well in comparison to others across the country with what we're doing with security. And I think it's time that we focus on ourselves a little bit and kind of identify where the successes are here in the state.
All righty, I think that pretty well covers. Lance, I didn't quite hear from you. I mean, I know that right now it's in session law that on this during this general, well, they've already done it, on the second year of the biennium, you guys will get about approximately another 150,000 there. So that should increase that 207. I know that was a June 30th number, but that should increase that another 150,000. But after that, there's no indication that the legislature is going to move forward with any more of those funds. It's not 100%. We don't know that for sure, but I think what they're trying to say is, listen, we'll provide the capital monies when we believe school districts across the state are expending those. And so you've got that freedom there to do that, but I wouldn't count on it, like Lance said. All right. All right, so capacity, I think we've really covered that pretty well in the study, and I know you guys are going to present housing units coming in and stuff like that. This is obviously the commission approved. When you guys do qualify for a project request through the via the application of the SFC rules and regs, then we do reference enrollment projections. And along with those enrollment projections, we always look for best available data in order to right size a project accordingly. So, and I know you guys got some really good data on that, and have been working with Alex also in that analysis. And I know you guys got some things to talk about here, and we'll talk about in just a second. With regard to enrollment projections, I've tried not to assume anybody knows anything on these. But just to remind everybody that we've got K through 12 enrollments. Those are always provided by WDE. Those are based on October 1 numbers, or the first day of school in October. Sometimes that can be other than October 1. And then and are forwarded to us about late December. And then we populate enrollment projections per school district and go from there. But what we do is we use 10 years of trailing data, and then we project out 10 years into the future. So one of the things I would like to remind school districts is that we really don't use these projections unless an appropriation request is identified, and then we use them to help determine an appropriate sizing of the facility, if it's going to expand or what, and make sure that that capacity is accurate as possible according to state statute, which is 5 years after substantial completion. But also in rules and regs, we know that there are not only increasing consistent enrollment in districts, but sometimes there's more of a up and down type of thing, stable, I would just call it, but maybe slightly increasing. We have a methodology to apply in that case. And then we always have, if it's decreasing, that's an interesting one. And so we really rely on the enrollment projections if it's a steady increase and you can go out, but also best available data when asking for remedies and seeking remedies in order to meet the needs of the district. So how these work is that, like the senior class this year, if you followed them back through the years, it's a stair step, and I'm pretending I've got the right number here. It might be right here or something, but you can see kindergarten there, start there. But how these projections work then is we do a survival rate, like 2008 kindergarten went to 2009 first grade, 2009 kindergarten went to 2010 first grade, and we actually take 10 years of trailing data, we average it, and then what we do is we see what that survival rate is. And that's a statistical survival rate. We hope that no one died or that something like that. So what it does is it just shows for you guys from kindergarten to first grade over the last 10 years, you picked up, about you've increased 101%, which means you over the last 10 years, you always have more students in first grade advancing to first grade or showing up in first grade than you did kindergarten. And then all you do is follow those down as you go. These are fairly typical numbers as you go through this until you guys hit your freshman year. It looks like you have a little bit of a drop. You go from 101% your 8th grade, and then your freshman year of high school, you have a 96% survival. So I would assume it's either because students are going over to a private school of some type, or perhaps something else. But what's your thoughts on that, Jeff?
We have a few students. Normally we have a really, I don't know, high graduation rate. The last couple of years, we've had a few more kids not matriculate through high school, through particularly Summit. But, we have such a small number of students that, anything at all impacts that. So
Mhm.
I think just losing a few kids throughout that high school through Summit.
Well, I'll tell you, you guys, you're the number of students that go from, your junior year, that's a typical year that you see a hit as well. But overall, you guys are really pretty well from kindergarten through through 12th grade. I don't know if I've seen that in another school district, where you guys pretty well have 100% of what you had start seem to finish. So that's kind of an interesting, one way or the other, an interesting and good retention for the most part of your students. So your kindergarten classes, of course, those are important. We know back here in around 2013 or so, you guys made a policy change, 2013, 14, I can't remember, but you made that policy change that kind of decreased the number of students in elementary as you phased out those students coming down from the Afton area south. So that's really helped you with regard to controlling that. But your average, and so I guess you guys are, since then, you guys have been really consistent in that kindergarten enrollment as they've come in. You're not necessarily losing, you're not necessarily gaining so far. You're maintaining about the same enrollment in kindergarten each year, up to at least in the last 3 years.
Yep.
Okay. And then you can also see pretty well down here the last 3 years, the numbers are being consistent here. And then just to acknowledge, you guys are in the 200s here, but you can see you're only in the hundreds. Your sophomore, junior, and senior class are in the hundreds. So we acknowledge that these 200 numbers, these students are going to start coming into your junior high school and continue to flow up as they move through that, which is why we did a study to look at the number of students that would be retained from the projection. And again, I know we're going to talk about that in just a second because I think you have some good words down here. Before we do that, let me say a couple more things. In the past, we've always done a capacity list by itself up to the commission for recommendations, and we've done a condition list, and whatever the top of that condition list would make capital recommendations to the school facilities commission. And now, obviously, we have that change, and the school district is very aware of that. The fact that now rules and regs require us to present a list that is composite in some way, shape, or form of 50% weighting of condition, 35% weight of each building would be capacity, and then 15% would be educational suitability. But we still maintain a capacity list statewide. And the reason we do that is because these percentages have to be transferred into that matrix for a building score eventually. But at any rate, it's kind of interesting. We only had like 2 high capacity. These categories are according to rules and regs by the commission. High capacity is 100% plus, medium is 95 to 100, and then low would be 90 to 95. And that's obviously based on an October 1, snapshot in time, which makes everybody equal and validates the data as it's presented in a consistent, holistic way to the commission. But at any rate, this only had 2 high capacity schools, or I should say grade configurations last year. What happened was the commission had went to a restricted capacity of 25 students, if a room would hold it, up to 25 students in K3. But then they got a lot of pushback from school districts, so they reneged on that and went back to a 16 restricted capacity, 16 K3. What happened was then a bunch of schools pushed up here in the elementary level. Osborne was already there. A bunch of schools pushed up. Now, Natrona is a no-brainer. They have 300 seats down in the schools they are using, but I had Charlie just put in this little revelation that says they closed 4 schools, mothballed them, and they have 921 seats. So obviously that's a no-brainer. That's even though it's high capacity percentage, in reality it isn't when because they can go back and use them in schools. So anyway,
Well,
you got
you know, taking that, Troy, Paul's closed a third of the classrooms at Munger, so it's going to change everything for us. Or not Munger, but at the middle school. He's closed a third of the classrooms at the middle school, and so we're in more dire situations than we've ever been in.
Did you throw a few mothballs in there?
Hey, Troy, can I, on a more serious note?
Yeah,
I was looking at this. I was looking at this spreadsheet on Friday, and it occurs to me that if we look at our incoming 6th grade class for next year, and you know, not knowing what these other schools' 6th grade classes are, but it'll put us up pretty equivalent with number 7 there.
I miss it.
Yeah.
So it should put us, I don't know if we'll be slightly above or slightly below Albany County, but it was 96 and change. So that'll be kind of interesting to see when you update in October how that slide you previously had up changes things.
Yeah, gotcha. Yep. Yeah, because what you're doing is you're moving, okay, yeah, you're just moving like the 225 would advance out, and then your 240, if I'm reading that, 242 would come in.
Yeah,
I gotcha. Yep.
which puts you at 96 and a half-ish. I've got the number in my office. I should have brought it. But anyway, I just thought you'd think that was interesting.
Unless
Yeah.
something happens in Albany.
Unless something happens in Albany. We're going to beat them.
Yeah. Albany is about one of the most stable communities in the state. I mean, other than the fact the university lost 200 plus, I don't know, they lost a lot of positions a couple of years ago, but that doesn't seem to have had a huge impact on them so far. So anyway, at the university. Okay, so Jeff, you had kind of listed here, and I think if I remember right, you know, you're talking about new developments, housing development, rooftop statistical multiplier, and I think it's quite clear that you guys, when you look at our enrollment projections are good and valid for school districts that have a consistent growth rate in enrollment, and then the economy or housing or stuff like that there's not something exterior that's coming in that can have a great impact on that enrollment projection. Your point in my humble interpretation is the fact that Jackson, Teton County, is very unique in the fact that it's becoming a very high density type of population in many areas, and then you have these new housing developments coming in that are not reflected on the enrollment projections, and I think you guys are. I don't think you've ever changed your story yet. You guys are saying, okay, guys, it's going to be more than what the projections are saying, and we're concerned about that, and you want to bring that to the commission's attention as clearly as possible.
Yeah, could I add one thing to that, Troy?
Oh, you betcha.
So since we populated this with Amber, that comment with Amber, the state legislature and the governor have approved that new family subdivision law as well. And when I start looking at the fact that we have 40 Robertsons and 30 Wilsons and, you know, all these ranchers that have all these kids now, that's something that I hadn't contemplated when Alex and you and I were working on that rooftop multiplier stuff. So the new family subdivision stuff is going to have yet another unknown that I think will particularly be families. You know, I really think that those folks will divide up their lands and they will use it for the intended purpose. And the other interesting thing is the schools get no exemptions from family subdivisions because they're exempt from the subdivision process where exactions are typically imposed. So like that village parcel we got, we don't get our 0.03 acres per lot or house when family subdivisions occur.
So is that a county requirement?
Yeah, yeah. So every lot or parcel that's produced in the county has a 0.03 acre obligation that they can either provide an acreage, as they did in the Teton Village case, or they give the county money in the amount of what 0.03 acres of land is worth in Teton County. And then the county remunerates, and the town of Jackson, they pass those dollars along to us. And then we give them back to you so you can give them to Albany County.
All right. Okay, thanks for mentioning that. Guys, keep reading my notes. I'm trying to capture as best as possible. And again, if you see recommendations, I'm more than happy to change it.
No, that's great, Troy.
Okay. So I did make a comment here. The middle school was ranked 5th last year. That's why we did the obviously, that's why we started the study. You guys moved down a little bit this year because of the change in restricted capacity across state. I mentioned that. And again, this is just written record. I said that we acknowledge additional data sources regarding the district's concern about continuing growth. Enrollment projections and best available data will be referenced when prioritization on statewide lists enables the SCD to consider possible budget recommendations at SSC. The SCD will reference the study when the district qualifies for possible funding requests in the future.
Okay.
Since condition, and we just talked about the weighted portion, right? Statewide stuff. So I just wanted to remember that, and I wrote it in. Anything else that needs to be talked about on capacity?
Troy, did you see the Jackson Elementary? Not on capacity. This is probably more for conditions, so I'll save that comment.
Okay. Charter schools, you don't have one, so we're done. Isn't that nice?
Done.
Condition, you guys know, is just like a vehicle, as a building ages, you got to put in more money as it ages, and it goes, preventive maintenance all the time. Eventually, you have to put in more major maintenance. That increases the needs to deal with deferred maintenance, and then eventually, obviously, major capital and infusion of major capital funds needs to occur in order to take care of buildings. And anybody who's been around any time with facilities knows all that. I put in the how we calculate an FCI score. Somewhere along here yesterday, Lance, I asked you a question and you were already gone. So yesterday, I know you were busy, but maybe you'll remember that question today as I go through. Just to review FCI scores, FCI does stand for Facility Condition Index. And again, it's just based on this formula and based on individual system evaluation. And of the 450 some educational buildings in the state, this is just page 1 of those 400 and some for education buildings. Here's a higher score, and it represents a higher deferred maintenance value on all the systems composite or all the systems together within that building. It goes down. So you guys don't have anything right there. You guys have really nice facilities. So that's a blessing. We do run a separate support facilities condition index, FCI index. And the reason is because state statute requires the commission to prioritize facility educational appropriation requests over other building requests. And then you guys are 3rd on this list. I know you guys did end up getting that. I don't know if that was a major capital or was that a component one for your parking lot, an appropriation.
Some of that I couldn't use.
The parking lot was a variety of sources.
Okay.
Right.
Direct districts,
Components.
major maintenance, and components.
Okay, great. And I don't think you really necessarily dealt with the bus barn itself, the building. Would that be accurate?
Well, other than the sewer, we come across the issue with the sewer that we had to fix. So,
Okay.
and an old fuel tank and a well. So, you know, it was slightly affected the actual bus barn itself, but not a lot.
Okay.
Troy, this is Paul. And I just had a question on what is your guys' position on the support structures now? Because I knew the bus barn, I actually had it down here as 4th on the condition index. I'm glad to see it's number 3. But I know you guys are focused on educational facilities now, but after the downturn, but do you have any projections or any idea of when we can try and address some of these?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I can tell you right now what our ideas are. So obviously, capital funding requests by the legislature or appropriations by the legislature have those dollar amounts have gone way down compared to what they used to be. Unless somewhere in the revenue of the state of Wyoming changes, we as an agency are unable to anticipate any higher ones at this point. I think Dell is working with the legislature, the commission, to try to stabilize. You know, we were up and down, up and down, up and down, and sometimes it was like down, up, 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 down, up, and now we're like fairly low compared to past years of appropriation. So our position is we do not know when further capital appropriation will come for support facilities. So our recommendation is take care of them as best as you can with major maintenance because the future is unknown.
Okay.
Here's your school district in and of itself, and guys, you have for your educational buildings, you really do. You have excellent buildings. You guys are taking care of them. You have received capital monies on many of them. You've used your major maintenance well, whatever component projects you've gotten, and then other sources of funds as well. So you're looking really good. You still have deferred maintenance to deal with. We acknowledge that. And the support facilities, again, that bus barn we just discussed. So I think, and I know you guys got safety concerns with the bus barn and stuff like that. I just basically made this comment there, read that real quick and make sure you're good with that.
Yeah, that's fine. You just made it so that Paul's going to be impossible to be around for a few days, but we'll break him back down.
Okay.
Yeah.
How much we do?
Yeah. You know, perhaps you could trade the bus barn for a batting cage. Batting cage building.
Use the batting cage.
Uh-huh.
That's a new bus barn.
Uh-huh.
Okay, major maintenance, you guys updated your work order statuses. We appreciate that. This is again housekeeping on our part. You do submit planned work orders. We try to encourage districts to submit, you know, a plan and planned work orders in full to the best of their ability on the front end before we meet with them each year for facility planning. But you also, by state statute, have the will and the privilege and the blessing of submitting those at any time for consideration from us, from Lance. And I think he's very consistent in what he approves, what he doesn't approve, and you guys know where you stand on those requests on a regular basis.
Yeah, I get snarled at every now and again. But that's
We still like
Yeah, and then we already talked about your security funds, where those are, we really didn't necessarily say that today, but those 10% security funds, all it is a category. It's not something that's generated through the major maintenance formula. It's just a category within your within your major maintenance that you can use. And it does not, these do not have to, when you use these or designate these funds, they don't have to qualify for the major maintenance definition. But, so you got more flexibility there to kind of make up when you're trying to do security stuff, and it doesn't all fall nice and clean within the capital projects or appropriations and the major maintenance that you can spend as well. So, and then the other thing is these 10% enhancement funds. Those are also a category within your major maintenance, and those are for things that do not fall, buildings that do not fall facilities that do not fall within the adequacy standards, crow's nests, lighting out on your sports field, teacherages, pools, swimming pools, stuff like that. It's so funny. We were dealing with the district the other day, and I know this sounds, you probably think I'm insulting your intelligence, but we were a district the other day that the facilities director had been around for probably 10 years. And we talked about that definition of 10%, and they never knew that they could use it on
Enhanced buildings.
yeah, enhanced buildings, and specifically teacherages. So every once in a while, we're the heroes. Rarely, but every once in a while. Hey guys, just for illustrative purposes, we just put in last year's priorities from highest expenditure down to lowest in major maintenance, except I don't think that, yeah, that works. And then we just broke it down per building. And so it's, again, you don't have to defend your priorities or anything. It's just illustrative within your facility plan. Let's go down to low condition scores. You guys know that 1s and 2s are either failure, which is a greater than 50% deferred maintenance on the system. That would be scored a 1. 25 to 50% deferred maintenance scored a 2, and so on. We take your 1s and 2s, put them out here. And the reason we do this is because every year in committee meetings, we have legislators ask us, are those districts spending money on their lowest scores and their highest needs with major maintenance? And instead of us on your behalf, and we believe that school districts do a good job at this for the most part, but there's reasons sometimes they don't spend money on what are they doing. So what we do is we allow you to respond to each of these 1s and 2s. You speak on your own behalf, and if anybody ever asks, what is TET01 doing with their 1s and 2s? We can push this over, and you've spoken, and your words are final. Any questions on that?
No. Paul, they got all your
Well, the 1s and 2s reflected on the bus barn are due to the fact that we had anticipated a new facility, so we felt that it wasn't in our best interest to expend major maintenance funds repairing it. Now, obviously, that's not the case, so we'll make a more concerted effort to spend money on the bus barn.
I still want to be conservative, though, with the bus barn. I would rather, just make it safe as we can, but not put lipstick on a pig that we don't have to.
Yeah, it is a modular building.
Yeah. So, we'll focus, Troy, on safety items and, certainly make sure we take care of any roof leaks or things that could cause widespread damage to the building, but we probably won't replace the slabs in there, stuff like that.
Yep. Well, we respect that, and thank you. And next year, you guys can update this again and say just that. We were getting concerned about Paul and his not spending money on that building. But now we're feeling better about
it. Okay.
Open the checkbook.
Get out my rubber denied state.
One of these days I'm going to be coaching like that, so if I take it seriously, I'll be in trouble. Hey, the next thing we want to talk about is the next facility condition assessment. State law requires every 4 years to go out and do that. So this fall, we're going to be putting together the code, go out, we're going to procure a professional service provider, bring them in. They're going to do all the things they have to do between us putting together a scope and then calibrating their assessors. And then this is the important part, and Paul, I think we've done this, but every 4 years when we do this, before the assessment starts, we have training. And we've got it April 1st. It won't be April 1st, I'm sure. It'll probably be sometime in April, but we just use that as a marker to see when we needed to start our process in order to get done in time. But training the districts, it's a 4-hour meeting up in Casper. We get we invite all the districts. Everybody wants to come, and we ask for whoever your person is who knows your building the best and who's going to shadow and walk next to the assessors the entire time they're on site. We don't want keys given to those assessors, and then at the end of the day, they hand back in, because the validity, I should say the accuracy, we want these assessments to be as accurate as possible, which means you're the most important person in the district to help them in understanding facility should be next to them. So at any rate, that training takes them through the tool, what the tool is, what are the different categories for the components, how the tool is used, and then what your guys' responsibility is when they show up on site, because state law requires them to show up on site and do actual on-site observations. So anyway, Paul, I think you've attended that before, but I can't recall. Did you do that in 2016?
That was that weekend or that day we got snowed in Casper. I think you were there, weren't you? A couple years ago.
Don't recall, honestly.
We might have gone out to the bar.
The last training. But I did walk through with Andy. The last time we did it, we worked with, what was the name of that company?
FEA.
Yeah, FEA, and there Andy.
Schwartz.
He was a Scottish guy. He was Welsh.
Oh.
Yeah, walked through. So we've been through the process before. And...
All right.
Hey, Troy?
Yes, sir.
Before we leave this item, did you see, this is what I was going to mention earlier, but I held it till now. Did you see that Plan 1 had some sort of consultant come in and look at the cafeteria at the middle school as a part of the Mercer and the kitchen, more the kitchen than the cafeteria? I just wanted to make sure that you saw that. If not, I'll make sure to send it to you.
Yeah, I did not see that, Jeff, and please do, and I'll look at that.
All right, Lance is saying the same, so I will send it right now.
If it's in Plan 1's final study, I haven't looked at their final study that's going to be presented tomorrow.
Okay, and then the last thing I wanted to say is, because we have over 550 buildings in the state that we have to get assessed, we can't do it in 2.5 months in a financially responsible way. So we will start, at the end of the school year next year, I should say around May, start assessment. So there will be some, obviously, time of the assessors in educational occupied buildings. And they're trained not to disrupt more than they need to through visual observations. And then we'll carry on into the fall just a little bit more. All right, you guys are familiar with component projects. They are a capital funding that's major maintenance when major maintenance is insufficient to meet the needs of the district. And so when you look at your deferred maintenance per building and a project comes up that, well, you can see here, I mean, Douglas on number 5 on this list has a $5.5 million HVAC project for their high school. And so, but a lot of these are in the millions. And so when you see something coming up and, you're looking at how to spread all your major maintenance across the district, and there's something that is, a higher dollar amount, it may be of value for you guys when we open this up to fill out and a component request and see if maybe you can get that to help you guys and then you can continue on with your maintenance program without trashing a single project or several.
Mm-hmm.
At any rate, we had 31 requests this year, a total of $39 million. We have 12 district representatives that actually help score these and rank them. And then on an average year, we may get anywhere from 4 to 6 million. So even though we had all these requests, if it was an average year, 4 out of the 31 would be approved if the commission so decided. And then you can see that we would have another 33 million that wouldn't be approved. So who knows, but we're trying. And this one's kind of frowned on sometimes by the legislators. But we keep asking for more maintenance money, and sometimes we get more, it's increased. but we even asked for more than more, and part of that was denied this year. So we're going to continue work. When we put something in front of the commission or the state, we're asking for more major maintenance. It's if the school districts are interested in that, it's vital that you're a part of that process and make your voices heard. All right, I think that's about it. So the legislature, the bills that did survive, we know, Jeff, on your behalf, I think through the WASBO website or whatever, you guys, school districts have a really good way of tracking educational bills as they go through the legislative process. Starting last year, we also started doing, and some of these are on that, but we started looking at what other bills are out there that can have an effect on your school districts with regard to facilities. And so I think it's a good thing to talk about. And some of these you've been tracking, which is great. So there is a public House Bill 52. All of these are enrolled, and it might have been signed by the governor. I can't remember if that was Friday, his last day to do that, or this Friday, but either signed by the governor or line item code or waiting to be signed here within the next several days. So House Bill 52, basically it requires architects to write specifications for products that are available within Wyoming or with Wyoming suppliers. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, it's just kind of muddled, but we're getting through it.
Okay, sorry about that, guys. I don't have any control of that. At any rate, if you hire an architect, basically it's part of this. You might want to look at, if it's not a capital request, so you're major maintenance or whatever, you know, you might want to make sure they've got specifications that qualify for in-state products. The architect itself in the documents. Procurement amendments. House Bill 65 is kind of interesting. The problem is we had state statute all over the place. Municipalities, from county to state entities to school districts, all of them had different statutes with regard to procurement. And so what happened of design professionals and service providers. So what happened was Brandon and others got together and worked with the Wyoming Construction, what is it, Coalition?
Yes.
And there's another one there, I don't know what that's called, but and school districts, representatives, and all those kind of stakeholders. And what they did was they unified all the statutes, so they said the same thing. And then there's kind of a layer of, if you end up to, I can't remember, up to 20,000 or 30,000, you do this, from 30 to 40, such and such, and from 40 to 50. So the bottom line is some of the dollar amounts, like on bonding, was clear back 30 plus years old and wasn't even validated anymore. There was that $7,500 limit, da da da. So what they did was they increased bonding up to $50,000. A&E procurement done at 50 grand. School district construction goes to 50 grand. Advertisement now is consistent. You just go 2 weeks, and 2 weeks is what everybody does. Lance, you probably know more about that, or Paul, but that's my best knowledge of that bill. House Bill 78, education major maintenance funding. You guys, not this coming fall, but the next year, you're going to start getting quarterly major maintenance payments. That was initiated by the legislature and approved. You'll have to watch yourself because you're not going to get it all up front. You're not going to get 75% in July and 25% in September. It's going to be 25% 4 times a year quarterly. House Bill 79, interfund loans. It just allows the legislature basically to move money between accounts. to make sure they have enough money for schools. Wyoming underground facilities, I think before when someone went out, did civil work, cut a line, $500 fine. You know what's that? $5,000 fine.
They're holding architects and engineers responsible. So it may make procuring those services more expensive because they're going to have to cover the cost of somebody ignoring their specifications with higher fees.
County zoning authority, I don't need to tell Teton County what that one is about. I was thinking that one. I was thinking that one was being considered to be vetoed at one time by the governor, possibly. I don't know.
Looks like I saw in the paper yesterday. It looks like he signed it.
Was that right, Jeff? Did he sign that one?
The private school bill?
No,
Yeah.
He didn't sign it. He didn't veto it either, so it becomes law.
Yeah.
Oh, you just let it pass through.
Okay. Public records, there's some changes in the timing of public records when a public request of information is made, when that has to be responded to, and a little bit more on the penalty thereof if you don't respond within the time.
It's not a felony anymore. It's just a misdemeanor.
Okay. Senate File 74, professional service procurement. This is another desire from the legislature to keep monies within Wyoming. So architect and engineer firms must have a physical office in Wyoming, which means there has to be people there.
Up to 50% of the work has to be done by Wyoming-based people.
There you go.
That's on a sliding scale though too, depending on the size of the contract of the project, because it goes down to, I believe, 30% if it's over 20 million or something.
Didn't it used to be 70%?
No, that's contractor 70-30 split. This is for professional services.
So make sure you're aware of that district. And then House Bill 1 is the actual construction capital funding through the legislature. And let's go into that one real quick. So some of these guys, I don't know who's dealing with this kind of stuff in your district, but we just want to make you be aware of it. If you hadn't seen any of it, there it is. The actual funding this year was a total of 34 million or so. There was that satellite high school in Rock Springs was approved for about 18 million. John C. Schifrin Alternative School for about 8.8 million. Shawnee over in Commerce County, they had 3 modulars that had extra money left over after capital expenditures, and the legislature approved reappropriation to replace a 4th modular, which is a rural modular. Leases for Montessori School in Albany. I hate the audio on this right now. And the past charter school keepers are being paid. Security projects, we talked about 4.95 billion. Major maintenance is $1 million. Okay, Jeff, if you could explain, please bring me up to date. I've only had like 43 school district meetings in the last 4 weeks. Remind me option 9 and what you're asking for.
Okay, and I need to modify this slightly because I typed that note prior to the board actually hearing this. So the way their motion currently reads is that they approved option 8A and 9. Meaning, and honestly, Troy, as you know, option 9, which I will explain in just a second, captures the 8A stuff, but the motion wasn't hurtful, so I didn't object at all. Basically, there are 2 options. 8A is a phased approach to addressing middle school populations at the middle school. And basically what it calls for is an addition of a 6th grade pod as an immediate remedy solution. Then in subsequent years, you could conceivably, construct around the gym a 7th grade and 8th grade pod, and then upon the completion of those 2 pods, you could tear down the older portion of the school. So the idea is do 6th grade pod immediately, and then in 10 or 15 years, or over the course of that 10 or 15 years, you could do the 7th and 8th grade pods and then demo the what'll then be over 30-year-old portion of the school. So option 9 is similar, but it has tendrils that link out into the high school. So option 9 calls for the addition of a 6th grade pod at the middle school as an immediate capacity remedy. It also, if I remember correctly, called for Paul's shop to become a CTE space. Paul is retiring, so he doesn't care anymore. Then over at the high school, it calls for a field house, which would then allow for athletic uses that are currently being housed inside the existing high school to be relocated, and those classrooms repurposed back to educational spaces, traditional educational instead of athletic educational. It also called for a field house or not field house, a CTE space, thank you. A CTE space to be located either on top of or appurtenant to the existing shop. And I forgot to mention that in both 8A and 9, there at the middle school is a secure vestibule, which also by implication creates a little more capacity inside your cafeteria area. Some minor changes to the kitchen serving area, and some minor changes to some hallway space.
Circulation issues.
Yeah, to address circulation issues.
I missed some of that, I'm sorry, but I tried.
Well, you know what you could do there, Troy, is reference 8A and 9 from the Teton County Mercer study if people want to see exactly what it is. We don't need a shop anymore. Nothing's going to break. Maybe Greg or Nate were out here.
Ball pits.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. That was good.
And Troy, some of those will be district enhancements. Others will be probably more qualified educational spaces.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Okay, which you said here. You said a lot of that. So I just said here, this is kind of a generic response, but the planning study is going to be a good reference for the district as it explores different funding sources to remedy concerns. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, is there anything else we haven't discussed that you'd like to bring into this before closing the meeting?
Let me make sure. So middle school kitchen study, bus barn, we talked about that. And the plan one kitchen assessments. Okay. No, sir. I think we're good.
Okay, staff, anything else?
Nothing for me.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. In that case, I look forward to seeing you at the next commission meeting and look forward to that presentation. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting, and we'll see you in Casper here tomorrow. Wow. Okay, there you go. Okay, take care, everybody.
Thanks,
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you guys.
You bet.
See you
Bye.
tomorrow. Night, actually. See you tonight.
Okay.